Hello dear participants, I welcome you all here in this lecture number 36 today, and the title of today's lecture is Multiple Linear Regression Equation or Model. So in the previous lecture number 35, we already have seen that how to obtain simple linear regression equation or model. In today's lecture, we are going to deal with the multiple linear regression equation. Objectives of today's lecture are as follows. The first objective is to make you all familiar with the concept multiple linear regression equation or model. Second objective is to make you all familiar with the procedure to obtain multiple regression equation using MS Excel and SPSS. And the last objective of today's lecture is to make you all familiar with the reading and interpretation of the coefficients which we obtain from this model. So let me start this lecture with explaining you the meaning of multiple linear regression equation. Multiple linear regression equation gives us the most probable values of dependent variable y for given values of more than one independent variable, that is x1, x2, x3 and so on and so forth. So what is the difference between simple linear regression equation and multiple linear regression equation? See, in the simple linear regression equation, we are having one dependent variable and one independent variable. So there is only one single independent variable here in the simple linear regression equation. Whereas in the multiple linear regression equation, we are having one dependent variable, that is y, and there are more than one independent variables like x1, x2 and x3 and so on and so forth. Fine. So the multiple linear regression equation is expressed as y is equal to a is the intercept, plus b1 in bracket x1. So x1 is one independent variable and this b1 is the coefficient of this x1, plus b2 in bracket x2. Again here x2 is the second independent variable and this b2 is coefficient of this x2. Then again plus b3 in bracket x3. Again here is one more independent variable and this b3 is the coefficient of this x3 and so on and so forth. Fine. So this is the way that multiple linear regression equation looks like. So how to obtain and how to construct multiple linear regression equation, that part we are going to demonstrate here in this lecture. And for that, let me take you to one example. So I'll take you to the MS Excel, and here is the data of different four variables. The first variable is the week. So there are 15 weeks in total. Here is the data of sale of a particular product, say that. So here in first week, the quantities sold are 350. In the second week, quantities sold are 460 and so on and so forth. The third column, it represents the variable price and the price is in the dollar, say that. So in the first week, the price of that particular product was $5.5. In the second week, it was $7.5. In the third week, it was 8 and so on and so forth is the data that we have collected. Fourth column, the variable in the fourth column is the advertisement expenditure and that expenditure is in the 1000 rupees. Fine. So in the first week it was $3,300. It was not in the rupees, it is again in the dollars because prices that we have assumed here in the dollar. So advertisement expenditure is also in the dollars. Fine. So 3.3, it means $3,300 and it was the advertisement expenditure in week 1. In second week again the same amount. In third week it was only 3000 and so on and so forth. So this is the data. So we have read our data, we have understood our data. Here are the different variables with us. Now we are going to determine that which variable is the dependent and which others are the independent variables. So if we look carefully that the advertisement expenditure, whether the advertisement expenditure is dependent variable or the price is dependent variable or the sales is the dependent variable, we need to decide it. Now, so far this example is concerned, we are going to consider sales unit as a dependent variable. So my sales, that depends on the price and advertisement expenditure. Fine. So here my dependent variable is sales unit and my independent variables are, they are means the price and the advertisement expenditure. Now I am going to write this model in a simple term. So if I write this model, say that y is equal to a plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2. As we all know that this x1 is the first independent variable and this b1 is the coefficient of this x1. This b1 we are going to compute. Again plus this x2 is the second independent variable and this b2 is the coefficient of this x2. Fine, and this y is dependent variable. So this all part we already have discussed in the previous lecture and few previous slides too. Now y is my dependent variable, so this sales unit, I'll write this sales on the left hand side, is equal to a is intercept plus b1 in bracket price. My first independent variable is the price, so I'll write here price plus b2 in bracket advertisement expenditure in short term. I have written it here. Now what is b1? Whatever the values I'll get here for the b1, what actually they represents. So here is the meaning of the b1. b1 is equal to, it is the slope of y sorry, it is the slope of y with variable x1 holding variable x2 constant. So what does this value represent us? This value here in the b1, at the place of b1, it will tell us that if the price increased by $1, how much quantities, how much unit of the quantities will be changed in the sales, assuming advertisement expenditure constant. So b1, whatever is the value here that we'll get here in the b1, it assumes that the second independent variable is constant. Fine, and this value is only associated with this price and sales. Story is same with the b2. What is b2? b2, the value here associated with b2, it tells us the slope of y with variable x2 holding variable x1 constant. It means whatever the value will get here, this value tells me that if the advertisement expenditure increases by some particular units, then that much unit b2, that much units of the change in the sales, assuming my price remains constant. So that is the assumption. So this is the way that we are going to read and interpret this model, and for that we are going to demonstrate that how to obtain the values, and again we'll see that how to interpret the result values. Fine, and for that let me take you further. Now how to construct multiple regression model? For that I need to go here in the data, then I need to go here in the data analysis, then I'll click on the data analysis, new pop-up window comes. Here I need to find out the regression. So here is the regression, I'll click on this, then I'll click on OK. A new new window appears here, and in this window again we'll find that there are two parts, input y range and input x range. Again we need to be very careful. Y range, what is my dependent variable? My dependent variable is y, and what is my y here? Here in our data sales, fine, this data is my dependent variable. So I'll click on this and I'll select my sales data, and for that let me go ahead, I'll click on this and then I'll select this whole data, and then again I'll press on this. So my data being selected here for the sales. Now here is the input x range, and as we all know that here we are having more than one independent variable, right? Two independent variables are here. So what I am going to do, I am going to select all this data. How to do that? Simply I'll click on this, then I'll select the whole data including the title, suppose. Then I'll click on this. Now variable names are also included. If our variables names are included here in the data, you will have to click here on the labels. So Excel will consider that yes, you have selected the titles. Fine. Then I'll go to the output range. I'll select the output range and I'll click on OK. As I press on OK, I'll get the result. And in this result, you can see that the first table is regression statistics, fine. Second is ANOVA, but we are more interested here in the coefficients, fine. Now I'll go to the first coefficient, that is intercept. Intercept is nothing but a. So in this formula, I'll put that value. Sales is equal to a, that is 306.56 from this thing. Then here is the coefficient for the price, and this coefficient is minus 24.97. So be careful for the signs, plus and minus signs. You should be very careful here. Now if it is a minus 24.97, then I'll come back to this formula, this equation, and in this equation I'll write this minus 24.97 and in bracket price, fine, in bracket price. And then for the advertisement expenditure, how much is the coefficient? 74.13. So I'll write plus 74.13 in bracket advertisement expenditure. Now what is the meaning of this minus 24.97 and what is the meaning of this plus 74.13? Let me explain this. How to interpret this part? See, first we'll go to simply this model. Y is equal to 306.52 minus 24.97 price plus say that 74.13 advertisement expenditure. Correct. Now how to give meaning or how to interpret this model? Let me explain you. For each increase of 1 unit of x1, so if my x1, here is the x1, right, instead of price here it is x1. If my x1 increases by 1 unit, the predicted value of y is estimated to decrease by 24.97. So why decrease? Why we are using decrease word? Because here is the minus sign. When there is a minus sign, it tells me that there is a negative or the inverse impact of change in this independent variable on this dependent variable, fine. So if there is a change in the independent variable here, then that will affect inversely on this dependent variable. So this is the way that we interpret. Now if I interpret considering this equation, then how to interpret? For each increase of price by $1, if the price increases by $1, then the predicted value of sales is to decrease by 24.97. So it will decrease by, sales will decrease by minus 24.97 if the price increase by $1, keeping advertisement expenses constant. So this remains constant. So this is very important. Keeping the other independent variable constant, if my price changes, how much change will occur in the sales? That thing we are going to explain here. Second part, this part now. For each increase of 1 unit of x2, the predicted value of y is estimated to increase by 74.13, keeping x1 constant. In other words, for each increase of $1, that is 1000, because advertisement expenditure it is in the 1000 rupees, that already we have mentioned. So for each increase of $1000 in advertisement expenditure, the predicted value of sales is to increase by 74.13 units, keeping price constant. So here if this increases by $1000, then sales are going to increase by 74.13. Why increase? Because here the sign plus, it indicates there is a positive relation. So this is the way that we give meaning. This is the way that we read and interpret this equation, this model. Fine. Now let me take you all to the SPSS. How to obtain multiple linear regression in SPSS? For that, we need to open SPSS. We have opened our SPSS here. Then simply I'll go to file, I'll go to open, and I'll go to data to import my file. Then I'll go to appropriate location where my worksheet is located. Here I'll click on the worksheet which I actually want to import. So I've clicked it. Then I'll click on open. As I click on open, a new window appears. Again, I'll have to click on OK. Now my data is here. What is the first step? First step is to go to variable view. So first I'll go to the variable view and then I'll rearrange or I'll cross verify whether everything is fine or not. I'll redefine the variables. Whatever is the missing part, that I'll arrange it here. Once I define all my variables, then I'll go back to the data view, and in data view now I'm going to demonstrate, or I'm going to obtain multiple regression equation model. And for that I need to go to analyze here. In analyze, I'll go to the regression, and in the regression I'll go to the linear part. So I'll click on linear because we are going to compute the linear regression models. Correct. Now here again on the left hand side, I'll get all my variables enlisted here, and on the right hand side now I need to determine my dependent and independent variable. I'll have to decide my dependent and independent variable. So here in these variables, my cells will go here in the dependent variable part, and these two variables will go here in this independent box. So let me put these variables in those respective boxes. So price and advertisement I'll put here in the independent. Now simply I'll click on OK. As I press on OK, in my output window I'll get the results. So again here are different tables. I'll just scroll it down, and I'll go to the last table where I'll find the coefficients. So I'm interested in these values. Fine. Now how to construct the model. Now here again, this constant is nothing but this is the value associated with a. So y is equal to a, that is 306.52. Price coefficient, that is B1, is minus 24.97. So minus 24.97 in bracket price, and advertisement expenses, that is B2, coefficient of this variable, that is 74.13. So I have written this thing here. Fine. And the explanation, the reading and interpretation part is same. If the price increases by $1, then my sales will decrease by 24.97 units. Correct. And if my advertisement expenditure increases by $1, my sale will increase by 74.13 units, keeping price constant. Right. So this is the way that we interpret this model. This is the way that we obtain multiple linear regression equation. Fine. The same thing is here, that how can we interpret or give the meaning to these coefficients b1 and b2. The same part is here, which already we have discussed in the MS Excel. Now if I'll come to the MS Excel output and SPSS output, again these coefficients are same. There are no change. So it is up to us. If you are comfortable in SPSS, you can go with the SPSS. If you are comfortable in MS Excel, simply you can go to the MS Excel and you can compute the regression equations. No problem at all. So I hope you all understood that how can we construct, how can we obtain the multiple linear regression equation, and how to give meaning to the coefficients of the independent variables. I hope you all enjoyed this lecture and you will use all this part in your research too. So far this lecture is concerned, we'll stop here and see you soon in the next lecture. Thank you.